Hello everyone, I'm Kanajun Tipon. Good day. So today I'm going to identify the anterior muscles of trunk and upper limb. First muscle is the thorax and shoulder superficial. First is the pectoralis major. So this part is the pectoralis major. Pectoralis major, large fan-shaped muscle covering upper portion of chest. Action: prime mover of arm flexion, adducts medially, rotates arm. Second is the deltoid. Deltoid, fleshy triangular muscle forming shoulder muscle mass. Action: prime mover of arm, abduction. So let's go to the abdominal wall. First is rectus abdominis. Rectus abdominis, medial superficial muscle, extends from pubis to rib cage. Action: flexes and rotates vertebral column. This is the rectus abdominis, the action. Next is the external oblique. External oblique, this part. External oblique, most superficial lateral muscle, fibers run downward and medially. Action: rotate and laterally flex the trunk. Next is the internal oblique, this part. Internal oblique, fibers run at right angles to those of external oblique which it underlies. Action: as for external oblique, or just like external oblique. Next is the transversus abdominis, this part. Transversus abdominis, deepest muscle of abdominal wall, fibers run horizontally. Action: compresses abdominal contents. Can you see it? Wait. Like this. Next is the muscles from forearm or arm. First muscle is biceps brachii. Biceps brachii, two-headed muscles of anterior arm. Action: flexes elbow and supinates forearm. Next is the brachialis. Brachialis, immediately deep to the biceps brachii. Action: a major arm flexor. Next is the brachioradialis, this part. Brachioradialis, superficial muscle of lateral forearm. Action: synergist of brachialis in forearm flexion. Next is the pronator teres, this part. Pronator teres, as you can see. Pronator teres, anterior forearm superficial to brachialis. Action: pronates forearm. Pronates forearm. Next is flexor carpi radialis, this part. Flexor carpi radialis. Flexor carpi radialis runs diagonally across forearm. Action: powerful flexor wrist abducts hand. So the action is like this. This is the action. Next is the flexor carpi ulnaris. This part, flexor carpi ulnaris. Flexor carpi ulnaris, medial to the flexor carpi radialis. Action, powerful flexor of wrist, abducts hand. So the action, like this. Next is the flexor digitorium superficialis. Flexor digitorium superficialis, deeper muscle visible at distal end of forearm. It's not illustrated. The action, flexes wrist and middle phalanges of fingers. So this is the action. So hello again everyone. Let's continue to the posterior muscles of human neck, trunk, and upper limb. The first muscle is the muscles of neck, shoulder, and thorax. First muscle is trapezius. Trapezius, most superficial muscle of posterior neck and thorax. So the action rises, rotates, and retracts scapula and stabilizes it. Next is the latissimus dorsi, broad flat muscle of lower back or lumbar region. This part. So the action, prime mover of arm extension, adducts and medially rotates arm. Next is the erector spinae. This part. Erector spinae, a long three-part muscle composed of iliocostalis, longissimus, and spinalis. So the action is all act to extend and bend the vertebral column laterally. Wait. So this is the example of the action. Next is we're going to arm or forearm. First is the triceps brachii. Triceps brachii, sole large fleshy muscle of posterior humerus. So the action, powerful forearm extension. Second is the extensor carpi radialis. Extensor carpi radialis. Extensor carpi radialis, superficial parallels brachioradialis on lateral forearm. So the example of the action extends and abducts wrist. Next is the extensor digitorium, superficial between extensor carpi ulnaris and extensor carpi radialis. So this part is the extensor digitorium. Prime mover of finger extension. Next is the extensor carpi ulnaris. Extensor carpi ulnaris is, I think, between extensor carpi radialis and extensor digitorum. This is the extensor carpi radialis, extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor carpi, extensor digitorum. So this is the extensor carpi ulnaris. Extensor carpi ulnaris, superficial medial posterior forearm. So the action extends and abducts wrist. So that's the posterior muscles of human neck, trunk, and upper limb.